got my PhD, I went into teaching and research, but it instead of entering the Academy of Wild and Strange Ideas that I was looking for, it was far from it.
Hello there and welcome to Wild and Finally Fucking Free, where midlife isn't a time of crisis but a time of metamorphosis. Just like the journey through puberty and pregnancy to postpartum, our midlife transition is also a powerful portal of rebirth. The wise woman inside of us is calling, inviting us to slow down, to take stock, to speak our truth, to burn away all that no longer serves us, ready to step forward into our next phase of life. I'm your host, Kylie Patchett, storyteller and midlife self-care coach, and together we'll unearth the real and raw stories of women who are right in the messy, magical middle, or have come out the other side, and the healers who help all of us through these crossroads of change. I hope that as you listen to these tales of breaking the ties that bind, shedding skins, and courageously chasing midlife dreams, that you too will answer the wise woman's invitation and set yourself wild and finally fucking free. Let's dive in. Hello, beautiful audience. Welcome to the podcast again. I have the beautiful astrologer Antoinette MacKenzie in the house. Hello, Antoinette. How are you?
Oh, hello, Kylie. I'm really good. Thank you.
I'm so excited for this chat. Antoinette is the amazing lady behind Pomegranate Astrology, which we will link in the show notes. And I just recently had a reading with you, and I was just saying to you that I was a bit scared about something that was coming up in my astrology, and you put me at such a beautiful sense of ease, and that everything was just unfolding as it should. And I walked away going, oh, okay, that was not as catastrophically horrible as what I thought it was going to be. So thank you for that, and thank you for coming to share your wisdom.
That's a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm really happy to chat to you.
And you did have your little friend in the background.
I did. She might appear again. She's very mysterious. She comes and goes.
Antoinette's got this gorgeous black cat. So if you see her, just pop up. You know who that is.
Yeah.
Antoinette, for people that don't know you, could you introduce yourself? Because you actually practice a slightly different form of astrology to what people may be more familiar with. I don't know whether it's just me that wasn't aware of it, but yes, please explain.
Yeah, no, I'm a Hellenistic astrologer. And so that's actually one of the more ancient systems of astrology that we have, from which a lot of other astrology is derived. And it has its roots not only in Hellenistic culture, but Hellenistic culture at the time was full of lots of different cultures, like ancient Egyptian and Babylonian. And there was a lot of travel and education happening around that sort of Mediterranean basin. And so this has kind of come out of that. And it's a whole sign house system, so it's not Placidus. And we tend to use the visible 7 planets out to Saturn, but we do bring in the outer planets for transits. And I personally resonate with this because it's kind of a simplified, deeply embedded in the seasons and an embodied experience, but it's also just I feel it's a simpler, more accessible version of astrology for me, and some of my clients feel that too.
Yeah, that was my experience. I have had, I think 2 other astrology readings, not for a very long time, but it has always felt like there's a lot going on that I don't have my head around. Whereas as I said before, like I walked away from your reading just feeling, as a sense of peace, and the same sort of peace that I get when I'm in nature, observing nature. It's like we are all part of this cyclical way of living, and there is, seasons for building, there's seasons for letting go, and there's seasons for surrendering, and all of those things. I felt really at ease after, and I think it's your way of delivering, and also, I think paired with that simplified. Like it just didn't feel like you had to cover so many moving parts, because I was just saying to you, my head feels like herding mosquitoes a lot of the time. Thank you, perimenopause. But yeah, I didn't feel overwhelmed. So thank you. It was such a good.
Glad. That means a lot to me. Thank you. That's lovely to hear. But I try to create these sort of little astrological sanctuaries for people to kind of just come and sit down and breathe out, and just it takes the fear out of astrology, because if it's fearful, we shouldn't really be engaging with it, perhaps, because it's just it's not the way it should be, I just feel. So yeah, I'm glad.
I love it. Like, I'm such a sucker for language, but the word sanctuary just makes me want to drop my little shoulders and settle on in. Actually, something we talked about in my reading was this concept of this beautiful garden, but with, the walls around it, like not walls as in you can't get in, but just boundaries around the beauty. So creating sanctuary where you can relax and nourish and all of those things. And also that there's edges so that not everybody is invited in, I'm guessing. So yeah, I don't know. Well, no, you wouldn't know this because I haven't spoken to you since then, but I have grand plans to create a little flower garden outside of my office in the garden, which is in progress at the moment. Outside of it, I'm planting a cut flower garden because I'm like, I am in the stage of my life where I am inviting more beauty and being in tune with nature and watering my garden and, that tending to something outside, which keeps you connected to all of that cyclical stuff. It just feels so beautiful. And when you said that to me, I was like, I know what I'm doing. I am creating a garden.
Yeah, I'm watching the seasons move through the garden and how everything is, it's lovely.
Yeah. I actually, I wrote a post about this, like a very brief post a little while ago about don't compare your autumn to someone else's spring, because I feel like something that's softening for me in this new kind of, I don't know whether it's midlife or age, I'm not really sure, but the unfolding feels to me to be more about just allowing things to kind of occur in their own timing and not so much the strivey, drivey kind of energy. I actually wanted to ask you, so when we spoke, I was coming to my Chiron return, which was the 9th of April this year, and I was freaking out about it. I'm going to be honest, just because of something that someone had said to me previously. And it was something that did kind of make me feel a little bit fearful. But because our audiences, there is a lot of women in midlife, women and men in midlife that are listening to this show. Could you explain a little bit about the transits that happen around our midlife period and kind of the purpose of the unfolding?
Yeah, well, often the one that hits us, well, I mean, apart from the Saturn returns, we also get Saturn squares and Saturn oppositions. But some of the real midlife transits, so the Uranus opposite Uranus, which is kind of the early to mid 40s, and that's a real sense that can be very destabilizing, but it's also about us coming into really who we are most authentically and what we really want. We can have this kind of sense of urgency to break free, can feel very restless, and also it can stir up a lot of the creative kind of ghosts that might need to be attended to that we haven't, if we haven't fulfilled certain creative urges or desires, or we had dreams that we just put to bed because we thought, no, I'm going to be sensible, I've got to do the right thing.
Be responsible.
Be responsible. Suddenly Uranus will come and say, hey, but remember you, I want you to break free of something. And that doesn't necessarily mean discarding our whole life and, all of the responsibilities and running off. It might mean running off into the sunset. With,
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure I did at that age.
On the back of a horse or something. Yeah, whatever. But I mean, there'll be elements of it. But even if you do that for 2 weeks or something, but the thing is that it's much more about us reconnecting with what we really desire and what we find fulfilling creatively and what excites us and inspires us. Because Uranus is that kind of wild card. It's Prometheus. It's like a brilliant kind of flash of insight that wobbles and rocks the boat. And so that comes along. And then we have the Chiron return, which often sort of comes as we're late 40s, early 50s. We're usually through it by then. Though Chiron has a weird orbit, and so it stays in signs for, it stays in different signs for different periods. But it's very much, I mean, Chiron is considered the wounded healer, but it's so much more than that. He was also a very wise teacher. And he taught a lot of the other centaurs. He taught Achilles as well, the warrior Achilles. And he has a sort of special place in mythology if you look into his story. But really, it's about addressing very primal wounds. When we get a Chiron return, it's going back to the kind of scene of the crime, so to speak, in terms of what that primal wound of self, especially with Chiron and Aries at the moment. That's
Mm.
the wound of who we are, our right even to exist. We may feel on some level like, what am I here for? Do I have the right even to exist? Which sounds kind of disturbing, but that's Aries. It's very much that I am, and who am I, and what is my worth. So those issues, those deeper primal wounds, get sort of brought to the surface, and we get the chance to address them, and it's actually a really rewarding time. I've finished mine, and I can tell you there's nothing to be afraid of. It's actually a remarkable deepening into a sense of who you are. And unapologetically dropping away a lot of stuff, a lot of shame that you don't have to walk with anymore, for instance. So
all right, just that balm for the soul, Antoinette, because I was just sharing with you, and I'm not going to go into details of the actual experience, but I've definitely having hit, and I know what you're saying is just because the date of Chiron return is a particular date that, you know, can be very much around for before and after. And does it come back sometimes too? Is there a weird
Chiron retrogrades, and if you've got sensitive points or planets where Chiron is, you know, retrograding over, it will be, you know, not only your Chiron return, for instance, if it's in Aries now, if you have planets or points in Aries, you're going to feel that as it moves back and forth across those other things. So
hey gorgeous, we interrupt this gold for a delicious invitation. If your whole body has been whispering more lately, more voice, more truth, more satisfaction, more clients of the soulmate variety, more cash, more you, then this invitation is for you. Potent, my sister mind is officially open. This is my high touch, holy fuck, I'm ready sister mind for rebels in good girl clothing who are done outsourcing their power and diluting their magic to fit into someone else's business formula. If you have been craving a space where your strategy, your voice, and your energy all get to be offered, honored, refined, and amplified, this is it. Inside of Potent, you'll get my eyes on your business every single week, copy mentoring, and that is for brand copy and content storytelling that turns your truth into client catnip, energetic recalibration that helps you unhook old learned limitation patterns, keeping you quiet, not being seen, not being heard, real-time, high-touch, one-on-one coaching that actually sees the bigness of your vision, and the kind of sisterhood that does not flinch when you show up in your full, messy, brilliant, phoenix rising from the ashes glory. This isn't surface level support. It's deep, potent, paradigm shifting work that changes who you are as a woman in business and a woman in life. We start in August. Early open access is open right now. For the month of June 2025, inside of this early access open doors period, you will receive juicy bonuses, extended payment plans, and access immediately to my entire library of storytelling gold. You'll find all the juicy details at kyliepatchett.com/potent. And we fill spaces, and there's only 10 of them, and more than likely only 5 by the time you listen to this, because by that time I will have offered them to the existing cohort, the beautiful original OG circle. We do actually take applications on a first come, first served basis. So come and apply, and let's get back to the magic of the episode. It to me, the experience that I had, because I was on holidays when this specific date was happening, but when you said unapologetic, that's what it actually feels like. It's like, I'm not going to I'm not going to pretend that I'm not who I am. I'm not going to apologize for who I am. I'm not going to abandon myself in favor of, fitting in or belonging or whatever. It's like, it's more important to me, finally, I feel like finally in my life, to be good in my skin and, internally in my internal landscape than anything outside of me. And that the word unapologetic, it just does, like I was saying to you, it's not like I'm trying to make any of these changes. It's just that I'm not available for anything that requires me to
Yes.
abandon myself. And I'm like, oh, it's like a whole new world. What is
Yeah.
possible from this place? And
Yeah.
I think what have you ever thought about Chiron return and how the perimenopause kind of transition is
Yeah.
it's a similar sort of,
Yeah.
it's like a call to arms, a cleaning out, a, I don't know,
Yeah.
autumn shake of the leaf.
It's burning you in the crucible of that,
Mm.
that kind of,
Ooh,
it's a real sort of coming of power.
yeah.
And also, Chiron shows us
Mm.
how we can teach others to, and Chiron and Aries shows us how we can teach others to be completely themselves by not being ashamed to be ourselves as well. Because
Mm.
also, Aries is and I'm speaking because Chiron and Aries lasts a long time. It's been there for a while and it still
Yeah.
is there. It's going to head into Taurus, in a little while. I've got to get the dates though.
Yeah.
But now we're dealing with Aries, and that's very much about who I am. And so therefore, Chiron being a teacher and Aries being the exaltation of the sun, where you shine your light and get to be who you are. That's one of the greatest gifts you can give other people, is those who have that kind of vulnerability to show up and be seen, which can be very hard for Chiron and Aries.
Mm-hmm.
It's that in some way we've been punished for not being for being
Mm.
ourselves, or for
Mm-hmm.
being a little too rambunctious, or a little bit like, hi, it's about me. And as children, we need to be that.
Yeah.
And then to be able to sort of heal that, or just go through that Chiron return and
Mm-hmm.
see the great gift is that we also attract others who can do that too, and who can feel it's almost like a sort of permission slip to just be yourself,
Yeah.
really fully yourself.
Which is
And
the
that's
ultimate
important.
freedom, right?
It's
Like
freedom.
I've realized, yeah, over the last few weeks, I thought that I'd shed a fair bit of skin about the things that cost me, like my peace of mind or my calm or my nervous system regulation, like any of those things. But I've realized more and more recently all the subtle ways that I kind of apologize. Like even I noticed in the very first interview I did today where I was being interviewed, I actually apologized for the fact that I'm neurosparkly, so it's very likely that I will jump up around all over the place. And I was like, far out. Why did I do that? It's just the way that I'm made. Why should I feel a sense of, and I wouldn't even say it's shame necessarily, but it's like I'm apologizing for my true nature. And I feel like I need to, I don't know, I'm having this constant conversation with my authentic self of like, I'm really sorry that I made apologies for you today, because I actually want to be fully myself unapologetically and feel that I can do that at no expense to anyone else, because that's what we were
Yeah.
taught as kids. Like,
Yeah.
you're too loud, you're too this, you're too that, you're too. I was constantly told, don't be that passionate, don't be that enthusiastic, don't be that. And I'm like, screw that. I'm actually meant to
Yeah.
be bringing that to the world. Like,
Yeah.
and I also can't be anything else. But the
Mm.
trying to not be that is exhausting.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah. And it's
so tiring.
those Chiron lessons are going to be potentized, especially with these past
Mm,
eclipses, because it was so close to the North Node in Aries, which is
mm,
very much the driver for, really, let's just talk about a whole new story of who we are and what we're trying, and also in relationship to the others, and keeping nice and playing, because opposite is Libra,
yes.
where, and not to have a go at Libra, I've got a Libra stellium, I get it, is
Mm-hmm.
that, it can be a struggle for Libra to let go of worrying about the other all the time,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
being concerned.
Mm-hmm.
So, and sorry, I just have to say, because as your phrase neurosparkly, I love that. I want to use it because I am too. So I just
There you
really, I
go.
really get it. And I
See.
love that. I love that term. So I'm going to use it.
Yeah. I don't relate to neurospicy, which is what a lot of people say, because
Oh,
it's almost sounds like I should be apologizing and toning my heat down. I'm like, no,
screw it.
Yeah.
But I like sparkle.
Sparkle is good because it's like here, there, and many ideas.
Yeah, exactly. And also squirrel,
Yeah.
which is fine.
Mm.
I love it. I love it. I'm sorry, I interrupted you because you were talking about Uranus and then Chiron return. Is there others that around the midlife where we kind of
Well,
go
in
through a
your
bit of a
early 50s, you get your Saturn square Saturn, which is the closing square before you hit your second Saturn return at around the age of
hang
59.
on a minute. The first one was trying enough, Antoinette.
Oh, if you're fortunate enough or privileged enough to live, till you're 100, you get 3.
Oh, my Lord. Okay. Well, I do plan to live till I'm 100, so that's fine.
So
So Saturn, square Saturn.
Yeah, so there are a couple. I mean, it's all like the moon. All the planets have these phases of the first quarter, the full, the third quarter, the new, and so a Saturn square Saturn, a closing square. That's a waning Saturn that's ready to go and be renewed at the Saturn return.
Yeah.
And so that starts rumbling around sort of, well, it can happen from sort of 57, but usually around 59 and 60 is kind of where it's like, it's every 29 years. So 58, 59 probably. And then when we're sort of maybe 88, 89, that kind of time, if you go through another Saturn return, it's like, wow, what wisdom.
Wow.
There's a true elder after that.
Oh, goodness, yes. My dad got to 91 and he was, I reckon he really started to, I mean, he was always a wise one anyway, but I feel like from about 86 onwards, he just it was an exponential rise of golden nuggets that he just had to open his mouth and another life lesson just fell out of his mouth. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's
beautiful.
Be more present for that. Anyway, I will not bash myself up. I'm interested in terms of, actually, could we take a step back and for people that aren't already into astrology, can we talk about the different energies between what we think of as a star sign, like us uninitiated non-astrology studiers? When people think of their star sign, they're talking about their sun sign, aren't they? And then there's moon and also rising. Can you give us a general overview of that?
Yeah.
And then I'd love to talk to you about the eclipses. But also, I want to go backwards in your story because you've got so many cool things that you've done that have woven together to lead you here.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we should do that first, actually.
Okay.
So you mentioned mythology. And this is something that when you were giving my reading, you gave so many beautiful, because everyone learns through stories and everyone relates through stories, and you threaded all of these mythology stories through the reading for me as well, and so they have stayed in my mind far better than if you'd just been talking kind of more abstract to me. So have you always been interested in mythology? How did you get to astrology? Because I know you've done lots of other things, and you're also a herbalist, which I'm like, that's what I want to be when I grow up. Hello, kitty cat.
Excuse my cat.
That's so good.
There's been quite a few threads. So, I mean, I've always loved mythology, and I grew up with it. I grew up reading it, but also being told stories by my grandmother, who did a lot of the raising of me, and she would tell me stories of the we're going to get a few distractions here. I apologize.
Antoinette, for everyone who's not watching the video, Antoinette's beautiful black cat is sitting on her bench behind her like she's on your left shoulder, which I think is very cool.
And her name is Circe, and she was actually named for one of my favorite books of all time, which is Circe by Madeline Miller. And it's the story of, speaking of myth, of the goddess Circe. In Homer's
Circe,
Odyssey.
I don't know that story.
Yeah, she was a herbalist and a sorceress, and she was the daughter of Helios, the sun god in Greek mythology, and she was exiled to an island where basically she had the powers of transfiguration as well. She was a herbalist, but she's got a bit of a bad reputation for turning men into pigs, but they were actually unwelcome visitors who were not nice to her when she was a very hospitable kind of, goddess. And Ulysses was shipwrecked on her island, and she took him in and healed him and looked after him for a few years before he embarked again upon his voyage. But it's bringing her to life. That particular book by Madeline Miller was pretty magical. So Circe's named for her, and she will be joining us clearly.
She's like, I am down for this conversation.
No, I've always loved mythology and stories, and I've, for as long as I've remembered, also loved astrology. And the thing is that it's something that Demetra George, a very famous Hellenistic astrologer, well, famous in my world of astrology, has said is that, a lot of the astrology was taught originally through the mythology, through storytelling, rather than rote learning of details and technicalities. All of these, and including also the Orphic hymns and these ancient Greek myths that were so full of character and symbol that it was a way of laying down by heart, really, and also in your bones. There's these stories that are astrological, that give us everything that we kind of need to understand what the dynamics are, what they're really trying to tell us, these planets, and also to have a relationship with them, like they are people. They are, it's not just an abstract, shall I get a haircut now? Where's the love? Where's the money?
Yes.
These are all valid questions, but how do we ground them in a feeling that it's speaking to us, and it's not just a news feed. It's not just a rush of next.
This is why I wanted to record because we had the reading not too long ago, but we were in this intense eclipse season, and I'm just seeing so much stuff on social media about, this is what it means, and I'm just like, I don't know whether we can break this down into this surface level sprinkling. And I understand that is kind of what happens on social media. I get it, because you've only got a certain amount of time, but actually, no, I want to keep going down the track. Sorry, I'm just listening to my brain wants to go in 3 different directions.
Oh, but I do understand that, because it's really exhausting. And I think the information out there is really rich, but sometimes it's too much, and we need to maybe just we're taking in a lot.
Simplify, and also take the time away from external noise to feel what's true for us.
Yes.
Because you can consume all you want, but consuming is only one part of it. Digestion is where the gold comes from. And I'm like, digestion, if you think about your physical digestion, is what do I need to store to nourish my body, and what gets, let go and eliminated. And I just think that when we're consuming so much, it's very difficult to make the space for the digestion and the understanding and the quiet to actually listen to your own internal. That's why I really love the mythology stories, because I'm like, I get this. I understand the storytelling and what am I trying to say? It's like, it makes it easier to understand on a much deeper level than just, because I did go through a period where I bought a few astrology books, and I'm like, all right, my star sign is this, and that means that, and then I've got this rising, and it just becomes so not meaningful, because I consumed a lot, but I did not know how to digest
it's almost it is very much like that, because astrology, and certainly the stories, hold so many nutrients, but in order to integrate that, we need to kind of not stuff it in all at once, maybe.
Exactly. Which is why people like you, who can help us in little bite-sized bits as well, and not kind of try and, exactly what you said, shove it all down. When you were listening to myths as a little girl, I'm just interested, because you've got possibly a similar brain to me. Did you turn the myths into pictures, like places to be in your mind from a visual? I used to
do all sorts of things with them. I used to because talk about neurosparkly. I had so many different things I wanted to do all of the time. And so at one point I was going to train to be a designer for costume and film, like
I can totally
costume,
see you doing that.
Costume design. And so, a lot of these myths and stories were, and this was before cosplay. This was kind of, proto
You're ahead
cosplay.
of the curve.
was just like, as a child, I'd like to dress as the characters, as the mythical characters, and go and
Yes.
play imaginary
Embody.
games, and really take a lot of time over
Mhm.
the costumes and
Mhm.
bring them to life, and try to create little, like, pouches of herbs and kind of little
Yes. Oh my God.
staffs, and
Hard
it was
relating.
quite out there, but it felt very real to me, and it felt like I was going to encounter them if I went into the forest behind my grandmother's garden, or if I
Yeah.
walked the cliffs near my home.
Well,
It was all of that felt very vibrantly alive, because I was so embedded in nature as well. I had
yes.
the privilege to be in a very, to experience a very wild childhood with the elements. So I think that's also what fed into the mythic, because to me it feels inseparable to the
Yes.
land and the experience of that. It's not for everyone, but it's just my personal experience.
Did you ever have a period of your life where you forgot these things?
Yes.
Like that you got so off track that you were like, I don't actually even know.
Yeah.
How did that happen, or what happened that woke you up again?
I didn't enjoy school that much, because I thought I was
I know. I hear you.
it just felt like I couldn't do what I really loved to do, and I had to jump through. A lot of people feel that. I was looking forward to university, because I love studying and learning, and I love being able to study things in depth.
Yep.
And I've got a Mercury in Scorpio, and I just kind of really like to deeply research things. And my idea about university was that it was a free thinking place where I would be exploring so many different ideas, and it kind of didn't no, it wasn't really that place. In some ways, I mean, I had some fantastic teachers, and I was really hungry to learn. But when I decided that I was going to be an academic and pursue PhD studies, and I got my scholarship to do that, and then I got my PhD, I went into teaching and research, but it instead of entering the Academy of Wild and Strange Ideas that I was looking for, it was far from it, and it ended up being perhaps more corporate than the corporations, and more rigid in terms of, I just felt so far from where the root of me was dwelling. And it was also a time in my life where I had a little girl, and I was rushing around living in the city, that I didn't really want to be in the city, because I'm not a city person. I don't belong there, but I needed to be there for, my partner and my job and everything that I was doing. And so I just kind of really went far out of, when you go so far away from the shore, and then you look back and you go, oh, how did I get all the way out here?
What the heck happened
And
here?
I didn't feel connected to any of the stories that felt like they had meaning. I was too busy just trying to keep my head above water, rushing and getting deadlines, and all the things that just, it's so easy to become just gobbled up by life, and it's not anyone's fault. It just happens a lot of the time. And we do have periods in our life where we're kind of meant to be building and doing things, where we perhaps have young children, or not, and it just consumes a lot of us. But it's one of the gifts I find of midlife, is returning to the extreme joys and gifts of our childhood.
Yes.
Start to really reconnect. We have that opportunity anyway, to reconnect with that. But it was also illness that took me out of that picture, so that I could really break away from it. And it wasn't easy, but I found that facilitated an earlier than I would have expected sort of escape hatch, even though I don't think that I was escaping to anything, in that I wouldn't recommend illness.
No. But hey, it's a good wake-up call.
It's a big wake-up call. Yeah.
And your body keeps the score, as we know.
It does.
So your body was just communicating your misalignment.
Definitely.
Do you look back there, and I know this is a hypothetical question, but I wonder, do you look back and wonder what would have happened if illness had not interrupted the trajectory?
Knowing me, I would have rebelled at some point.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't, I tried, yeah, I think part of there's a certain irrepressible, uncompromising wildness that if you have been raised with a certain amount of that, it gets in you and you don't, it's hard to get out of that. And it can work against you. You know, I'm sort of someone who is a bit of an edge dweller in that I'm literally on the edge in terms of where I live. I'm on the edge of a forest now. I live there, but I tend to kind of not be able to fully belong in places where I can't instinctively thrive. So I think I would have rebelled and just left that life anyway. I wasn't particularly hooked on the status of it or the appearance of it, even though I was surrounded by a lot of people who were and who didn't really want to know me after that, which was actually okay by me because I found being around them quite stressful because you know, it's kind of like, but I don't want what you want. And so it was a release in a way.
Relating. I love that, because I was not raised with wildness inside of me, but I definitely have a strong streak of wildness inside of me. And I wonder whether that, like I always, when I'm doing these interviews, I'm always reminded that there's a golden thread that runs through our lives and we end up where we're meant to be if we allow ourselves to unfold as we're invited. And not everybody does, and that's fine. But yeah, I do often wonder about wildness, because what you were saying about, like, there's a flip side to that. Sometimes it doesn't work so well, because sometimes I notice with my own desire, and it actually, that's why this is called Wild and Finally Fucking Free, right? Because like wild and free are my two top values. But I do sometimes wonder whether there is a bit of a energy of the rebel that's so used to fighting against the stream or against the collective kind of, this is what success looks like, or this is what happiness looks like, that sometimes I find myself kind of approaching things with the same sort of fighting for or fighting against energy. I'm like, hang on a minute, you don't have to do everything like this. Like, it can be easy. So do you experience that as well? What did you mean by, like, when the wildness kind of...
So I feel as though, look, I'll phrase it astrologically.
Yes.
I was born under a balsamic moon. It's the dark moon. And it's like approaching midnight at Samhain. Okay. So it's often people who are born with this kind of lunar phase. It's a surrendering and letting go of everything. And it feels like they don't even have a choice. It's just saying goodbye to lots of things in their life, lots of people and places and situations. And it can give you a sort of far-seeing kind of nature in that you are seeding a future time. It's like a real kind of deep crone energy before rebirth. And so I knew that I'm someone who can't hold on white knuckle to anything. There's an element of surrendering because it's just part of what needs to happen. And I knew that that's what the theme has been in my life. I'm very aware of and very wary of idealizing that kind of tendency to, because I am a romantic and I am an idealist, but I've also got quite a Saturnian nature. And so I know the price that you can pay sometimes for a certain amount of romanticism or an inability to compromise. And I think that inability to compromise on certain things has moderated with age. I've sort of seen that I can be a bit more realistic in some ways, and I've had to be, but I have also paid a price and been prepared to pay that price, and in order to live the way I need to live or feel that it's truest to me. And I've also raised an artist, and I know what that means. How, like, she was born that way. I didn't make her that way. But in order to do that, you need to see clearly what that also means in this world.
Yes.
And what artists are faced with in this world and how challenging it can be to create art in a world that thinks it just should be there, created in a vacuum. So there's a whole lot of different things where I've gone into a way of living that I just feel I have to do this and live in wild places, be connected to the land and regenerate wild places or land that has been abused. That's been part of my path as well. But yeah, I'm aware that it comes with a price, and it's not always, it can sometimes be at the cost of stability or security in the kind of security that our world
values.
Values.
So. Oh my Lord, you have just captured in a few sentences. I have always felt, and maybe you have an astrological way of explaining this as well. I'm sure you do. That I have always felt like I have an equal and opposite desire for security and freedom. So freedom is my highest value. And yet with too much freedom, I can feel very ungrounded and not able to kind of bring things into this plane and quite not even up in my head, just not even conscious, like not present here. And so I've always felt a little bit kind of like, am I a little bit crazy crackers? Like there's, but I feel like you've just described that though. It's like the desire for what feeds you whilst also still needing to be grounded and connected to something that makes sense to you.
Yeah, well, I feel like a lot of the world and the systems we're in are very ungrounding. They're not, they tell us that this is a reality. And there are the pressures to, to really see and meet that material reality. There's no denying that, that, we have, we've got to keep a roof over our head. We've got to put food on the table. We've got to care for our, those who we need to care for, whether they be animals or children or otherwise. And our responsibilities to others are there too. But it's still that sometimes I think a lot of these systems that now exist for us within to operate that way are very inhospitable and very ungrounding. And not always very human at all. They don't bring us...
And pull us out of alignment often. I look at structures, and particularly the one that I keep on coming back to, which does so much damage, is education. Trying to put neurosparkly people into boxes, or trying to teach kids by talking at them in a classroom, and all of those things. I feel like they're all designed to benefit a particular value system, and that is not my value system. So I've never ever felt like I fit into any of those things. And I guess that's where the status quo challenging kind of desire comes from. It's like, but who said that I have to have that to be happy, or who said that I have to make that to be happy, or whatever. So I'm grateful though, because it is often the other people around me that are also neurosparkly that are the people that are kind of challenging, because those systems are deeply uncomfortable for us, and we cannot pretend that we tolerate them because it does us too much harm. And I think that that's actually, I guess, the benefit of these extra sensitive, extra processing brains that see and feel a lot easier in some ways. And I know neurosparkliness is across a huge spectrum of people, but I do feel like something that I always used to think was a flaw of like how much I sense and feel is actually like, it's like I'm the canary in the gold mine and I am dying over here in corporate land, people. Like, you got to pay attention to us, because we will not, in general, we cannot subject ourselves to the same environments that bleed us. Well, that's my experience anyway. And when I talk to other people like that, I'm like, there's a pattern here. I'm interested, if you look back on your life, what's the greatest gift that astrology has given you? Like understanding where the planets are placed in your own chart, and what those things can mean in terms of like the environments that you love, or the strengths, I don't even want to say weaknesses, but challenges and opportunities, I guess is the language I'd choose.
I think there are so many ways you can go when you look at your chart, and it's partly for me I want people to fall in love with their natal chart, and because I think the wellness industry as well can be part of you need to improve, you need to be better, you need to
be fixed.
do this. And even
There's
though
something wrong with you,
I can, yeah, even though I can still recommend certain remediations, it's not to fix a person.
yes,
it's actually to strengthen a sense of self-worth and to see how we're related to something really sacred, that we're from the stars on earth, and we're completely connected to everything that's alive. And it's this, by looking at the mandala of a natal chart, it is like a many-petaled lotus flower, and that is the complexity of us. It's not our psychology. We are the spirit at the heart of things, with all of these different elements that they can be partly about our environment and other people, but it's also the strength that we have and the gifts, and also, yes, the challenges. And sometimes being able to stand back and see those challenges, we can have more self-compassion, because we can see this archetype working through things that isn't just some core element of like my personality. This is something different. This is something else that shows up and can be triggered by timing and events as well. And to see that we're held within this kind of divine timing.
Yes.
And to trust the divine timing.
Yes.
Because it's not, it's partially not having, well, for want of a better word, the arrogance to think we can control everything that happens to us through. There is manifestation, sure, but there's a whole lot of other stuff, and we can't just white knuckle through thinking we can control it all. So to accept this beautiful, sacred kind of, well, the nativity, the language of the stars, it's a deeply spiritual and relational language that shows us how we're made of every part of the earth that we love. It's alive. The trees are, the trees around me. When you live in a forest, you see how they are beings. They have consciousness. There's absolutely no doubt about this. And the more we know about the science of trees, that backs that up
the more
anyway.
yes, exactly. I was actually just about to say, as you were talking, like when I studied biology, and the reason why I was so fascinated by biology was in large part because I've always had a curious mind, same thing that you've sort of said, like I wanted to deep dive into something. And I had this amazing biology teacher in kind of early high school. She was like cool, like so cool. She used to drive a little red MG and have the scarf around her head and the big sunglasses. Name was Mrs. Catherall. I don't even know would she be alive still? She's probably about my age, so she could be. Well, that would be exciting if she But yeah, I just remember how her passion for biology was so infectious. And then when I studied biology at uni, because I studied cell biology in my undergrad, and then when I, like many, many years later, found myself in the coaching sphere and, would be having a conversation with someone who was looking to change their life, and they'd be, listening to the voice of fear that says, I'm not good enough and I'm not this and I'm not that. And I'm like, do you know how miraculous you are? Like the fact that you're a living, breathing being with all these amazing processes and endocrine cascades and all of these things that are ticking along. You're not thinking about it. You're not trying hard. Like that is miraculous. And then when you start threading in, like, yes, the language of like how trees look and how our lungs look and how, there's so many connections between our bodies and even like fruits and vegetables and what they're meant to be good for and all of those things. I think the patterns are repeating. And I'm just like, there's people that aren't seeing it. And I don't know. Like, I guess everyone's on their own path. I understand that. But as you're talking, the thing that keeps coming to my mind is surrendering to your magnificence, because you are part of this entire cosmos or universe of things all intertwined relating in this amazing, birth, rebirth, death, night, day, hot, cold, like all of that is balancing. And it's like, how can we ever doubt that we're not meant to be here at a particular time or for a particular purpose or a particular unfolding, whatever. When you say trust the timing, that's something that I've really, really, really anchored into in the last few years, and particularly when perimenopause was serving me up a shitstorm of things going on. And I can now look back and see, like you use the word like burning in the crucible. I feel like I've literally gone through that. I'm like burned to the ground and then, learning to rise from the ashes. But the trusting the timing to me just gives so much sense of like peace and surrender, that there's a purpose to everything that unfolds. And so then it helps me to not be in the story of, oh, this is awful, or this is amazing, or this is like, this means something about me, or this. It's like, no, this is just playing out,
I think it also helps us get back into our bodies and just, breathe. It's okay. You don't have to rush ahead to try and make things happen. I mean, put the effort in. It's not just kind of sitting there waiting, is it?
No.
But it's that feeling that we can sort of return home to ourselves and have a level of trust, which can be, for those of us who might have been challenged, I've had challenges with that. When I talk about this, it's through having really learned some lessons around that and really gone through that. I'm not saying it lightly. That comes with time, but it's also something I try to remind clients, because I'm just a little wary of how I'm so happy that astrology is popular now, but I'm also wary of how sometimes it can feed fear, or it can just get too fast and too sort of breathless. And and also this is just a tip, a little
yes, please.
One of the reasons I love to practice Hellenistic astrology is that we don't do sun sign astrology. We actually find that looking at your rising sign from the whole sign system being your first house, from your whole sign rising sign, if you look at forecasts from that perspective, it can be really a lot more powerful and relevant. Like, it depends. It doesn't mean that the sun and the moon are not relevant. They're very, very important in the chart. But in terms of who we are in our sense of self and identity, and that really kind of just who we are, it's the rising sign that has a big impact.
That's interesting. Okay, well that actually makes sense to me, because I get confused when I'm trying to figure out sun, moon, and rising, and the three planets that the three things that I'm reading are very different, and I'm like, I get all of that, but I don't really understand how to make sense of
it. And when you nurture and feed the rising sign and the ruler of the rising sign, you're nurturing and feeding and supporting the entire chart. It really does a lot for how we can feel resourced and cared for.
I'm going to go back to our reading now, because I feel like I need to listen in more depth to one particular part.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the moon, moon and its joy. I love some of the language of astrology, like exaltation. And what was the one you were talking to me about, something happening? Was it Kazemi or something?
Oh, yeah,
it just like sounded like Kazamo.
That's an ancient Persian term for being in the heart of the sun when a planet is reborn, like a phoenix in the fire. It enters the heart of the sun. And there's a lot of mythology around that too. So it's a powerful moment of insight where a planet goes to die, but it's like a phoenix building its nest in the flames, where its egg hatches out of the fire, and it becomes an entirely different nature when it rises again. Like, it can die as a morning star and be reborn as an evening star, for instance, and it has a very different nature and temperament as a result, even though, for instance, it can still be Venus. So we have a lot of nuance in there, a lot of different
I just love it. I love it. I love it. I love the language and just the way that you thread the stories through. I was like, it just feels like and I chose to have the reading with you right at the end of that ridiculous year of study that I subjected
Oh,
myself
yes.
to. That
I
was like the
remember.
Friday after the Thursday of the final assessment. And it was
Yeah.
just such perfect timing, because I was like, I am never putting myself in a position where I'm pushing against myself that hard, that I'm pushing myself out of alignment. Like, I felt very unwell and
Yeah.
undernourished and depleted. And
Yeah.
so much of what you were telling me, I was like, oh my goodness, this really, really makes sense. Before we wrap up, I wanted to just come back to the concept of eclipse season, because again, coming back to social media, there's a lot of like, oh, like it's quite dramatic about eclipse season. What's your take on because we, at the time that we're recording, we're in the middle of an eclipse season. This will come out when we're still, I think, in eclipse season, but I'm not sure. What's your take on eclipses? Because I would love to hear, yes, the way that you explain this.
Okay, well, it's very different to the modern system that sees the nodes as evolutionary points. We tend to see, like in Vedic astrology, we tend to see the nodes as shadow planets. They're points of increase and decrease.
Yes.
So in a way, it kind of echoes what modern astrology is talking about when the North Node is moving to and the South Node is pulling away from.
Yes. Yeah.
But the North Node is considered the dragon's head. It's always hungry because it's disembodied. It's the dragon's head that's hungering and wanting, and it's hungering for worldly matters. It's ambitious. It wants to do things in the world. It can be actually really inspiring. But it's the fact of the matter is it's always wanting more, because
it's always future focused, right?
Yeah,
it's not present.
No. So it's about those new stories. A solar eclipse is a new beginning. And and the thing is that the nodes, the south eclipse being about decrease, I've heard it described as a bath plug, that you pull the bath plug and all of the dank old water drains out. And so it's what you don't need anymore. But it's also where we kind of retreat to in an otherworldly sense, where we're not so worldly, where we might want to kind of spend time being, well, we kind of can get stuck in either mode, either the north or the south.
Yep.
But it's like an Ouroboros, the snake eating its own tail.
Yes.
Because the south node is the belly, the north node is the head. And so we have this kind of the headless dragon, the belly of it, doesn't quite know what direction it's a bit directionless. And the north node, being the head, is constantly urging for more. So they're fated points. It's when eclipses happen, everything is already kind of unfolding. The beginning is baked into the ending into the beginning, and it's all fated to just be either slipping away or beginning. And so we don't need to fear them, because we're really they're just showing us where we're at, what's already been happening and transpiring.
See, that's so much more friendly and gentle than other things that I've read about eclipse
They can
season.
be, some of them sometimes can be challenging, but you will often find that, oh, this has really allowed something new to come in that would not have been able to arrive without letting go of something, even if we don't want to let go.
Oh my goodness. Yes. As I was sharing with you before we started recording, that I was saying, I know that it's time to let go, and it's completely untenable and unsustainable for me not to let go, but there is deep grief in letting go as well. And both can be true. And I think the earlier version, or the younger version of me, thought that grief meant it was a bad thing to let go, or like, you want to avoid the grief. It's like, no, this is just, it's nature, right? I'm just dropping leaves because it's time. And it's okay to, feel feelings about that. It's very interesting. Very interesting how it's all, what would you say about, when we're talking about the wounded healer before, is there an energy of, how do I want to put this? I just feel like when I'm working with, because I often write copy for healers and helpers, and so that's the people that I'm most speaking with, there seems to be a common pattern of, I went through X pain, I had this experience, and on the flip side of that, and in that challenge, kind of like what you were saying about illness, like in that painful challenging thing, there was an invitation on the other side, and there's also deep power, because I feel like pain and power, I don't know, two sides of the same coin or something. Is there a bit of an energy of that in Chiron, that you go through a certain thing to then have that Chiron return and have a chance to kind of, I don't know, like you were saying before, like almost like contribute from that place or something? Or is that?
Yeah. I mean, I really like that. It's not certainly not my invention, but the idea of healing as a spiral, and spiraling down further and further. And
Yes.
Chiron takes us down into the deeper and deeper layers of memories and woundings around, those early memories. And so it really does allow us to enter into a deep truthfulness that comes from the roots up, so that when we're sharing what we have to share or who we are, we know in every pore of us that this has come from a lived experience of pain and understanding that actually allows us to, if we want to, develop more compassion, and also not for ourselves as well, especially because we can't come from any kind of basis. Otherwise we become rescuers. If we don't practice self-compassion, we become the rescuer, and that's an unhelpful mode too, isn't it?
Yes, it is. But, I have retired my hero's cape. Yes.
So there's something that definitely brings us to the other side, that there's nothing quite like that lived experience of really undergoing the trials of facing those shadows and those wounds, and then really being able to help people just through living, just through being who we are, not necessarily even through a career, but just sharing who we are.
Gives you a different place to live from, doesn't it, when you've got those awarenesses? I just love it. I love chatting with you. I loved our reading. I knew that you were going to be beautiful on the podcast. I wonder well, first of all, we need to share your website just verbally. We'll put it in the show notes. So you are at pomegranateastrology.com. I just bought 2 massive pomegranates the other day, because it's, lovely. It's almost the end of pomegranate season. Yes. So what is something that you would like to leave people that are listening about the midlife kind of transits or invitations, as far as astrology goes? One, I don't know, little reminder, I want to say. I don't even usually ask that question, but I'm just wondering, because I feel like when we're talking about trusting the timing as our lives unfold in this, I really feel like there's that calling to the wise woman. Like, what would you have people remember?
I think it's funny, because I feel as though crossing into my 50s has been a sense of going to out to a frontier as a woman, where nobody's really telling you much about what it's like to be there. And it's felt as though I've seen how this has been painted in our culture, or understood in our culture as something very unappealing, as something to be feared. And I feel more excited and far more myself, and really unapologetically myself, than I ever have before. My 40s were quite hard, and comparatively the 50s feel like I'm really coming home to myself, and I'm excited. I don't want to be young, even though youth is held up as this thing that we must hold on to.
You must hold on to,
and fading youth is a terrible thing, and it's such a sad feeling. And these midlife transits feel like they really kick our props out from under us and show us where the solid ground is, that we can really be who we are. And it feels so much truer, and you don't care what anyone thinks.
No,
it's great. I love it on the side of it. I feel like telling people, come and join me. This is a good place to be. And so those midlife transits aren't to be feared. They're actually incredible gifts, and really rewarding gifts if you go into them, if you embrace them, and you don't flinch or clench against them. It's just like, allow this beautiful growing and flowering to just go with it. See what happens.
Oh.
Be adventurous.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I think that my hidden agenda for starting this podcast was to hear that when I was struggling so much, because I started it right in the middle of the shit show that I found myself in, completely blindsided, which now I know, yeah, there was just parts of me that hadn't been tended to that were coming up to go, hello, now would be the time. But yeah, it's such a gift to be able to speak to people like you. I'm turning 50 in January and I am excited far more than I was in my 40s. I also found my 40s quite tricky territory. Yeah, and now I just feel like this sense of like freer than I ever have been. And that word unapologetic, I feel like we need to high five on that one because yeah, it's like this is who I am and you don't have to like it and that's okay. And I'm not being nasty when I say that. I'm just saying it's all good.
Yeah.
We've all got our people. And if I'm not yours, that is
exactly.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely not going to pretend I'm different just to try and fit in because that is not happening anymore.
No, definitely not.
Thank you. That's such a great pearl of wisdom to finish with. And I really, really encourage everyone, if you haven't dived into astrology, particularly in the more simplistic style of the Hellenistic, which I just found such a gorgeous gift. I said to you, I had a little kind of very surface level dive into human design and I just got so overwhelmed because it's just so much. And I know it's related loosely to astrology, but if there's anyone out there that is looking for some more self-understanding and surrender to the way that you're actually born and your natural, just the natural being that you are, like it's such a gift. I just, yeah, so enjoyed it. So go and find the beautiful Antoinette, have a reading and yeah, allow yourself to marinate in her beautiful language and her beautiful stories and her beautiful knowledge. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you, Kylie. Thank you. It's been such a joy. I loved it.
So good. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for tuning in, my friend. And if you enjoyed this ep, please share it with another midlife friend or take the opportunity to go and rate and review the show on your favorite listening platform. All of these things really help us to reach more women in midlife. Now, I don't know if you know, but I am both a storyteller who helps healers and helpers capture and communicate their work through the magic of storytelling. And I'm a midlife self-care coach who is super passionate about helping other women reframe perimenopause and midlife as a powerful and purposeful time of transformation. To find out more about me and my work, you can head to Instagram at Kylie Patchett or my website kpcreative.com.au, and that is kpkreative.com.au, and you will find all of those links in the show notes. Have a spectacular day, and may you be setting yourself wild and finally fucking free.